without the people in this industry, we really don't exist. You know, our customers are so important and the people that work in our businesses are imperative. And I try to set the best example, and I've done that through the mentorship that I was given early on in my career.
Welcome to Evolve TV, Roads to Success, a special career series by Mechanic.com.au. In each episode, we sit down with inspiring people across the automotive industry to explore the real stories behind their career journeys, from humble beginnings to leadership and everything in between. This series is part of the Gear Up Auto Careers initiative, created to help young people and career changers discover the many opportunities that exist in the automotive industry through the experience of those who have lived it. Priscilla Robb is the Head of Strategy and Customer Engagement at Penrite, bringing more than 2 decades of experience in the automotive industry. Before joining Penrite, Priscilla spent over 20 years with Gates Australia, progressing from a marketing coordinator through to a marketing leadership across Australia and New Zealand. Throughout her career, she's become widely respected across the industry, not only for her strategic thinking and customer engagement, but also for her passion and strengthening the industry itself, particularly in supporting emerging talent and greater participation across the sector. Her contributions were recognised when she received the Women at the Wheel Award at the Australian Auto Aftermarket Excellence Awards. Priscilla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So when you got started in the industry, did you ever think you'd end up where you are today?
No, I was at uni. I studied commerce and then knew I'd go into business in some way, shape or form. But when I finished, simply applied for a marketing junior role at Gates, and first job I applied for, got it, and spent 21 years there. So I hadn't pictured I'd ever enter into the automotive market, and now I don't see I'll ever get out of it either, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and so it was just by chance that it was in Gates' trade, industrial, automotive. That was just purely chance. You didn't seek that out.
Purely luck, yeah. And even when I applied for the job, you know, I did a little bit of research before I entered, knew they were a global business, but I didn't target automotive. I was literally just targeting, get my foot in the door, big business straight out of uni. And I was fortunate enough to work in a company that I was able to progress my career and spent a good chunk of 20 years there.
That's awesome. And so you started out as a marketing coordinator. What kind of things about that role did you like and that engaged you?
Yeah, great thing about being in a global business, and also the fact that we had an Australian operation. There was only a couple of us in that marketing team when I started. So we had a graphic designer and myself. So I was always across lots of different channels in marketing, from PR, promotional activity, advertising, trade show and events. So I suppose I was an all-rounder from day one, and that's probably what I've kept constant in my career even to this day, that I do love the fact I didn't have to go down a specific channel. And the world's so different now. When I started, digital marketing wasn't strong, it wasn't big, it really wasn't even talked about. So that has morphed into its own kind of channel in marketing since I started my career. And, there's people now that enter their careers purely focusing on that. And I've been able to stay as a generalist across my whole career, which is great because that's what I love. I love the diversity in my roles and being involved in so many different things across the industry.
And so do you think by having exposure to all those different areas of the business in those early days, does that help you today in being able to relate and understand what people do?
Yeah, most definitely, because the beauty, I suppose, for entering a role in marketing is you have so many touch points and stakeholders in any business. We're dealing with finance. It's joked that marketers spend the most budget in most businesses, and it's probably true. But you're closely working with your finance division. We're an enablement for our sales force, constantly working with them to provide them support on marketing the brand in market, setting up sales promotions and campaigns. So sales is a huge stakeholder for a marketing division. But then you're also touching customer service and logistics and warehouse. So you really are a central point for any business. And that's great because it exposes you to the rest of the business and really understanding the business wholeheartedly so that you're not siloed whatsoever. And I personally have always focused on knowing all the people within the business and where I needed to leverage to get the best value out of anything we were doing. And it's always about business improvement. So how is what we're doing impacting other parts of the business, is there a better way we can do it to deliver for ultimately our customers and our internal stakeholders, our people?
And so you started in an entry-level role. To get to where you are today, what has given you the opportunities, or what are the things that you have had to do to climb that ladder and get into the position you are now? Is there anything that stands out?
So at Gates, I was really lucky. My first manager was really, really supportive of me. He challenged me all the time. He was one of those managers that I'd go in, I think I had all the answers ready, and it was always that one thing I hadn't thought of that he would challenge me on, and he made me think about how I did things very differently. He taught me also what's the worst anyone can say is no. So always ask. Never take what they say as for granted. Just ask a question. The worst they will say to you is no. I've lived by that, I think, through my whole career, and I've asked for opportunities. But I've also been fortunate at Gates that I was put in a kind of an accelerated program globally where they highlighted I was a potential leader for the business in the future. So I was also put into a formal mentoring program, and that was, I suppose, the benefits of working for a global corp that had these programs that were on offer. So probably, 8-9 years in, I was matched with a mentor in America who to this day is still quite an influential mentor for me. And she was also a senior leader in the business in Denver, but also a female, which, seeing females in those leadership roles at that point of time in my career was unusual. So she really taught me to back myself early on. So if there was an opportunity I was interested in, put my best foot forward and put my hand up for it. So having her guidance as well as just also exposure to people outside of our localized business really helped me trust my instinct, but also back myself and know that I had skills and I was delivering in the business and I was able to make a difference and have a voice and don't sit back and not challenge something if I didn't think it was right. And that's something that today I really think was a turning point in me and my thinking process in one, my personal development, my professional development, but also just how I manage my teams as well in business now. At that time, I didn't have direct reports. It was still quite early in my career, but everything that she kind of guided me and I've kept as a mantra of how I like to operate and I suppose represent myself in this industry. It's without the people in this industry, we really don't exist. Our customers are so important and the people that work in our businesses are imperative. And I try to set the best example, and I've done that through the mentorship that I was given early on in my career.
I think that's an important point to touch on because, within the automotive industry, there's two parts to this. One, there's a lot of employers that actually have these programs to help develop people internally, whether it's through mentorships or structured excellence programs to elevate people through their careers. But there's a genuine intent and want to foster and grow people in the industry. People will start in various different roles in our industry and, the businesses that employ them, they want to promote them and hang on to them and see them succeed, don't they?
They do. And I suppose that's where my linkage with, particularly with AAA women, really came about in my career because I saw when I was at Gates, there was a lack of a network for women in the industry of sharing ideas, sharing best practice. I was very connected with my internal stakeholders and also my customers. I've got lifelong friends through some of my customers over the last 20 years. And we would, we'd network, we'd share ideas, we'd vent on occasions. But I saw it as a gap in the industry in that I had that and I'd built my own networks, but I knew there would be other people in the industry that didn't have that. So one thing that I did around a Grand Prix event was I implemented it as a Women's Day at Grand Prix on a Friday. And I just off my own bat through Gates support, they were very supportive of it, invited 30 women across our industry from, industry bodies, apprentices, some of our customers, just to get them in a room to be able to network and connect. And the overwhelming feedback I got from those women that had never been invited to any such event, and I'd attended so many industry events over the years. And, from early in my career, I was the only female or one of 3 or 4 in those rooms to today, it's getting closer to a 40-50 split kind of thing. But back then it was very uncommon. So that just, off my own back, I thought, I'm just going to do something that I can do. I've got the ability to do this. And that kind of opened my eyes and started discussions with Leslie that this is an opportunity here that we should be doing more in this space. And I know counterparts in other parts of the world, America's industry bodies, they are doing it. Why aren't we doing stuff here to support our industry? And not just people in it, also people just entering the industry, because I've been fortunate to come across people across my career that have been really influential and supported me. How do I give back and help other people just starting, whether it's apprentices on the tools through to people entering more customer facing like customer service, or even at branch level. We've all got the opportunity to share our experience. It was just finding a platform to do it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, because as we sit here today, females do represent a real minority in the industry. When we look at technical, technical roles, it's single digit in terms of the number of women in the industry. And when we expand beyond technical roles, the number's a bit higher, but it's not significant. So one of the reasons that you just touched on is that historically there hasn't really been, a place for, women to collaborate and to network. And that's changed a lot recently. What do you think the other reason that women don't seek out or think this industry is for them?
I think it's not overly promoted, to be honest. I think there's a real lack. I know when I was at school, and it's a long time ago, but when I was at school, the only job that was really kind of out there for automotive was really going to be a mechanic or a tradesperson, or, car sales or dealership level kind of. That was what I saw as automotive. I had no idea that I could go into a marketing or an events and sponsorship role. Like, none of those things were really promoted or advocated as jobs in the industry. So I just never considered the industry. And then I obviously went through uni and as I said, I just applied for a marketing coordinator role that evidently ended me up in the automotive industry. But I think, and it's not just our industry that suffers from this, I think we stereotype roles to sometimes just that one or two roles in the industry, and we don't actually promote that all of the businesses that make up these industries have so many different divisions and departments, and we could work in any of them. It's just very polarized, and I think we've definitely come together. The Gear Up initiative is an example of that, where we are all actively trying to promote the industry beyond just what has been the norm, and that's done through both formal and informal channels. And even the alignment I had with getting in touch with all the industry bodies. So the MTA is very much apprentice and trade driven, but it was also not about supporting them, but exposing the businesses to there is more to this industry than just apprenticeships and trades.
Absolutely. So there's opportunities in technical where, women tremendously excel in them, but so much more beyond that. We really just got to do a better job of putting it on the map and letting people know about it.
Yeah, and ways of doing that are obviously educating in the education system. So, there's with the AA women side of things, we definitely are looking at advocacy of how do we become more relevant in those early parts of people's journey in education and careers. And, the other opportunities, and one thing we're doing at Penrite is, since I've joined the Penrite team, we know we've got an aging population of our audience, our core customer. How do we also engage our brand at that youth level? And that has two prongs. Obviously, it's for brand awareness and longevity of our brand in industry, but also being a prominent brand in industry helps encourage people to want to be a part of the industry. And that may be subtly through their career. And I obviously, with my family and friends and my network of colleagues and associates, am very passionate about the industry now because I'm in it. And I think the more of us that have those conversations outside of the industry, it helps generate that little bit more interest. And in time, the numbers will improve, hopefully.
And what I'm hearing from you, and I think I share the same sentiment, is that there are so many businesses and participants in the automotive industry that just want to see people win and support them and mentor them along their journey. So I think it's true to say there's never been a time in our industry where there's more support, more focus, more mentorship, and more opportunities than there's ever been before.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, we're all, I think as businesses, we're all doing the best we can, implementing things that support our internal staff and colleagues. But then I think as an industry wide, there's networking events to bring people together to build networks. There's the women focus that we've got within the industry body at the moment. And I've seen that outside of just AAA women. I know a lot of the industry associations are creating their own women networks state by state. Even some of which I've had contact with in terms of the key account channels, they're implementing those networking and mentoring programs. And all of those initiatives that we all do as an individual or as a business and an industry collectively are helping promote, one, retaining people in the industry, but two, also encouragement for people to want to enter the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Priscilla, you were awarded the Women at the Wheel Award by the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association fairly recently. Tell us a little bit about the purpose of that award, and when you reflect back on your journey from the marketing coordinator and getting started to now, what does that mean to you?
Yes, I'm incredibly honoured to be presented that at the AAA award banquet a little while ago now, but being the first women ever to receive that award, it was really in honour of someone that's driving or trying to drive towards change in the industry and was supportive of networking and I suppose encouragement towards women. It was part of me bringing women together at that Grand Prix event, supporting apprentices, particularly doing some focus on female apprentices in industry in a way of trying to keep them in the industry. So showing them, like having them at supercar events and giving them experiences they may not have had. It was, about showing them there's more to the industry than the grind of on the tools. But I also feel honoured that I was considered as someone leading in that women's space. I had progressed my career to a point where I was in leadership, senior leadership within Gates, and I was trying to drive change both internally and very active within the AA and very active with our customer bases. And I think it was just very much an honour to be recognised for things that you do, because I don't do things for recognition. I think most of us don't. It's just I'm going about my job and being me as the person I am, and for someone to actually, or an industry body to pull that out and actually recognise it and say, this is a benchmark for what we'd like to see more of in our industry was a really proud moment for me. And as I said, it wasn't expected, but I was incredibly honoured. And I even wonder if now today that's kind of helped progress me to where I am in my career now and my new opportunities that came my way, and paving my career in a new business and sharing my knowledge with others in the industry as well.
Yeah.
It also helped, it did help me also become involved with the AA Women. So obviously by winning that award, I was brought into that fold of helping drive change beyond just what I was doing in my own sort of sphere. And now I get to do it with a collective incredible women. I've met some amazing mentors through that experience. But now I also get to do that for others. And it's a wider scope now that enables me to help bring people into the fold and give them support in our industry, which is so vitally important. And I would say I probably wouldn't have stayed in the industry unless I met those people that provided me support over the 22 plus years.
Yeah, it's so important to have that recognition for what you do and your output and what you give to the industry. But as you mentioned, it's also passing the torch, and all of the learnings that you've had along the way, all of the information and knowledge that you absorb, to be able to just pass that on to somebody else and help almost fast track them a little bit, and be able to. There's something so rewarding about being able to, just help others, nudge them in the right direction. And it sounds like you've done quite a lot of that.
Yeah, and I'm very much about, I made mistakes along the way. So if I can educate someone on what not to do or best way how to navigate a situation, I'm all for that. And I mean, I have an incredible team with me now of 8 people or so, and male and females, and I lead and I direct them all the same way and provide them all the same recommendations and experiences. But my biggest advice is, put yourself out there and take the risk and back yourself. I support them as much as I can and I back them wholeheartedly, but you've also got to back yourself and back your own abilities, because that is so important. If you can present yourself as you are confident and you know what you're doing and you've got all the knowledge and the facts, everyone else in that room is going to believe what you say and trust what you're doing because you are confident in what you're delivering.
Priscilla, I want you to imagine that I'm watching this show and I'm somebody that's I'm interested in the automotive industry. I've learned a lot of things I didn't know about it, but I'm still reluctant to take that first step. Whether I'm a male or a female, what advice would you give to me?
I would definitely recommend you seek out a career in the industry. The automotive industry, and I mean, I also work and cross over into the industrial sectors as well. The automotive industry is incredibly passionate. It's somehow I explain it's also almost like joining a family. Everyone knows everyone. There's some incredible people, some great mentors within the industry, both, within industry bodies and even just in, your informal mentors if you reach and see someone in the industry, you grab onto them if they're inspiring to you. It's definitely an industry that is supportive. We are changing daily. There is so much change in our industry with technology implementations and also I think just the type of businesses that are in this industry are also diverse and different. And I would say grab it by both hands and seek out opportunities in it because you never know where you can end up and it's definitely not pigeonholed to just on the tools.
I love that. And I think you've captured the essence of it really well. It is like one big family. I deal with other industries and friends and colleagues that are in different industries. And there's an element of it that seems like it's a job, it's a career, and there's a level of, I guess, a clinical element to it where it really does feel like everybody knows everybody in the automotive industry.
It's true. And we get it, I get excited being able to go to industry events because you get to catch up with people I've known for years that I may only see once or twice a year at an industry breakfast or a trade show or a customer event. So, everyone knows everyone. We all support each other. We've all got each other's back. Like anything, you've got competitors. That is life. That's how we operate. But it is like a one extended family. And when you're working, incredibly hard, you've got to love what you do. So I think when you're working in an industry that is very passionate and loyal and that makes work enjoyable. And that's, for me, it's 22 years in now. So I hope to retire in this industry if all goes well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time and something's kept you here for sure. And now we've covered a lot in this show in terms of your journey and the opportunities and the challenges and the things that exist. If you had to try and distill all of that, and I know this is difficult, into one word, how would you describe our industry?
Passionate.
Passionate.
Yeah, incredibly passionate.
I like that. I think historically there's a lot of people that got into the industry because they love cars or they love some element of automotive. But having said that, there's also a lot of people that, cars isn't necessarily their thing, but they fall into our industry and they just love it. It's something that, you don't have to be a car person or an automotive person to have a really successful, rewarding career that you're really passionate about.
And that's so true because I was not a car person when I joined the industry. I would argue I'm probably still not a car person, but I'm incredibly passionate. And whether it's the brand, the industry, or just the people in it, I think the people is what makes our industry. And I think everyone is passionate in some way, shape or form in our industry.
I love it. You've captured it perfectly. Priscilla, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time and I hope to see you on here again perhaps sometime.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Priscilla. If this story inspired you or someone you know to consider a career in automotive, head to gearup.careers to explore real pathways, job opportunities, and more stories from across the industry. And if you're already in the industry, share this episode and help us show the next generation what's possible.